Hey folks, this is Vince the Evil Dungeon Master here with another episode of Just Thinking, pretty much. Just wanted to update the channel and tell everybody I'm really happy about the videos that are coming out, all the new subscribers, the new likes, and the new faces that are showing up constantly. It's nice to see support and people actually, showing up and commenting. I'm really enjoying doing the actual plays that Jeff and I are doing for co-op No Dungeon Master RPGs with using Mythic Emulator on Foundry VTT. We did All Flesh Must Be Eaten. Now we're doing BX Dungeons and Dragons, and when this video drops, the first episode of DC Heroes will have dropped. Nightfall Bay, it's called. My custom city that I designed way back in the 90s when I was in high school playing DC Heroes constantly with my friends. I had it in a nice 3-ring binder. I now translated it all to the Gotham database website. Well, most of it, that is. That was worth. Well, you have to look back at some notes that when you were younger and a teenager, you did some crazy, weird things that you probably don't want everything out there. But so, I put on there what I really thought was necessary. And the city is really fleshed out with NPCs, departments, various people filling in baseball stadiums, a cafe that they can go to and talk. I even have the borough president, which is basically the mayor. I reskinned back then, which there wasn't a lot of resources back in the 90s. We had the library, we had not a fax machine, copy machines, and that was really it. AOL was like the biggest thing in the world then, and BBSs were our thing as well back then as well. And we had dial-up modems. So I basically reskinned Staten Island and made Staten Island my own city. I renamed each little individual county. I put little landmarks where I thought landmarks would be. I don't think there's a baseball stadium inside Staten Island, is there? Not that I know of. No, I've never really been to Staten Island when I grew up in the New York area. But we reskinned that and made that into a major campaign, which I did probably from 89 to 92, around there, when I was playing after school during my high school years. We played all the time. It was a lot of fun playing DC Heroes, and it was one of the best superhero games that I probably played. I remember my friends making up characters from the Marvel universe and bringing them into the DC universe, and I wasn't heavy on doing DC canon. I didn't really care. I read DC comic books, but I didn't really care as much about the DC lore and canon. I wanted to do my own thing. I would use the characters in the game, I'm sorry, in the comics, as backdrop or ways to do things, villains and everything. I didn't really care about following. Superman did this or Batman did that, and this person died. Whatever was at the time. I remember I had used Cersei, and I got used because Infinity Gauntlet was popular back then, the comic book. So I had the Infinity Rings in my campaign. So Cersei had the Infinity Rings, which I didn't exactly know what the Infinity Gauntlet did. I remember reading it, but not really, because I wasn't really into Marvel comics. I was more into DC comics. So I kind of made the Infinity Rings into like various things which looking back on it is probably the same thing as the Infinity Gauntlet. But that was a story that we had, a storyline of that, and they had to try to wrestle the rings away from her to try to save the universe. It was a lot of fun, and everything took place in Nightfall Bay, this one little city that I made up. So I mean, it wasn't worldwide; it was just city based, and these were powerful superheroes. But they can't. It just shows you can use the city for a large scale or a little scale. It doesn't really matter. Whatever your heart desires. So that's coming out. That's going to be the next thing. I want to do my own just solo game, talking about. I was thinking either Ghostbusters or Army of Darkness, and just doing a game revolving around that. Get back into those games that I started doing when I first did this channel, was Ghostbusters, AD&D, and I can't remember what else I was doing, but I need to do some more videos on that and more videos like this. I like doing my daily podcast as well. It gives me a little bit of time in the morning to gather my thoughts and talk about whatever's going on in the world, the Evil Dungeon Master Universe podcast, whatever we're going to call it. Some people suggested the Universe podcast or the Evil Universe podcast, but whichever works, it doesn't really matter to me. Again, like I do all these things just because I like to spark imagination in people. And like I've always said on Roll for Initiative over many years, of the 11-year span of that podcast, if we just spark an idea in one person that listens to the show and gets back to us and says that and lets us know that they've been busting out, it's well worth the entire run. So that's how I do things, how I handle things. If just a couple people are inspired to pick up books and do something, that's the reward right there. Um, of course, now if you do a podcast and you don't get any listens on that podcast, it's not really worth continuing that podcast. Why put all the time into editing and doing show notes and everything, and your weekly results are no listens? It's very frustrating. And yeah, some people are like, oh, you should keep with it, but not really. You set goals. If you don't set goals, you can't have expectations and you can't get anywhere in life with podcasting. So I like to do it as in 5 episodes, at least 10 listen downloads for each of them. If you can't get that, then you could set another goal of maybe 5. But when you're doing a podcast week after week, planning and sitting down with your buddy or yourself and talking about a topic, and you're only getting like 1, 2 listens, and you're advertising, you're going, say, we're going on Reddit, you're going on YouTube, you're going on Twitter, Facebook, advertising in groups, and not one person is looking or listening to what you're doing, and you've given it at least 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 episodes, it might be time to pack it up, or at least reevaluate, try to figure out what's going on, maybe even send out polls to say, well, why don't you listen to this podcast? Is it me? Am I doing something wrong? Do I have too many uhs? Does does it sound really bad? Because bad audio can turn people off as well. Is it a bad green screen on my podcast because I look stupid because maybe half the background's covering my face or something? I know that matters to a lot of people. Me, I don't really care. Sometimes I'll even do videos in front of the green screen without the green screen even on. I just think it's important to be passionate about the topic. And when you're passionate about the topic, the people do see that. So I just wanted to give a quick update on this channel and give you an idea what's going on. I know you guys have seen a lot of things happening here and there, a lot of actual plays, and a lot of my podcasts popping up on there because I'm doing the podcast on Spotify and putting it up on YouTube because some people said they wanted it on YouTube as well. I don't understand listening to podcasts on YouTube exactly, but it's a big way to advertise and get listeners to what you're doing. So why not? I hope you enjoy all the things that I do here. And with that said, I'm going to head out. Hopefully you have a great day and a great upcoming weekend. It is Easter weekend for those who celebrate Easter. So happy Easter to you all out there. So I'm going to head out, keep it original, keep it old school. God bless and good night, everybody.